What if I told you that beneath the glittering walls of the wealthy, behind the polished smiles of the powerful, lies a secret so dark, it destroyed an empire from the inside out? This is not just a story of betrayal. This is the story of a woman who turned quiet patience into unstoppable revenge, and of a child who inherited not money, but the truth. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear proves that no amount of money can bury the past, and no dynasty can outrun justice. The gentle drizzle of late September transformed the graveyard into a somber, almost haunting setting the moment Eleanor Trump, a white American billionaire woman, laid eyes on a scene that would alter the course of her life forever. Standing before her son Damien's polished marble headstone, a young black woman dressed in a cheap cafe uniform cradled a small boy, both weeping as though their world had just ended. Eleanor halted in her tracks, her gloved fingers tightening instinctively around the bouquet of pale orchids she carried. At the age of 58, the matriarch of the Trump Global Enterprises dynasty had never once seen these two strangers before. Yet something in the woman's weary posture, in the child's fragile, familiar features, set Eleanor's heart pounding without reason. "Pardon me," Eleanor said, her tone slicing through the damp, heavy silence of the graveyard like a blade. "This is a private space. You don't belong here." Slowly, the young woman lifted her tear-streaked face, her eyes swollen from grief. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize anyone would come today." Though her voice trembled, there was a quiet resilience beneath the surface that Eleanor hadn't expected to encounter. "Who are you?" Eleanor pressed, her cold, shrewd instincts sharpened after decades running a cutthroat empire. "And why are you mourning at my son's grave?" The little boy, no older than 4, turned his gaze upward toward Eleanor, striking green eyes staring into hers. Eyes she knew far too well. Eyes she had seen reflected in her mirror her entire life. Eyes identical to Damien's. "My name is Kendra Miles," the young black American woman answered, wiping away fresh tears with the back of her sleeve. "And this is Noah. I work at Harper's Cafe downtown. I come here every month because," she faltered, glancing protectively at the child, "because Damien meant everything to us." Eleanor felt the ground shift beneath her feet. It had been 3 agonizing years since Damien's life was claimed in a car crash at just 29, taking with him all the hope she'd harbored for the Trump legacy. In the aftermath, Eleanor had dissected every inch of his life, clawing through his secrets for some sense of meaning. Never once had she uncovered a trace of a serious romance, much less a child. Meant everything. In what way? Eleanor demanded, her voice dropping low with suspicion. Rain hammered down harder, yet none of them moved. Kendra held Eleanor's stare with a quiet bravery that unnerved the billionaire heiress. "Because Noah is his son. And because I swore to Damien I'd raise him with love and protect him no matter what." The bouquet slid from Eleanor's numb hands, orchids scattering across the cold, rain-slicked stone of the grave. 3 years. 3 bitter years were spent mourning Damien, believing the bloodline had ended with him. 3 years, only to learn now that she had a grandson. Raised by a waitress. Living a life she had never even imagined for anyone tied to her name. But something in Kendra's expression didn't align with the simple tale she was offering. Beneath her courage lay a wary fear, a shadow of secrets too heavy for a single mother to carry alone. What Eleanor couldn't yet comprehend was that this revelation was merely the first unraveling thread in a tangled web of lies and betrayals. Hidden truths entwined people dangerously close to her heart. And beneath Kendra's apparent vulnerability lived a strength that would soon threaten to upend Eleanor's entire world of privilege and power. If stories of family secrets and shocking revelations move you, be sure to follow this journey to discover how a random moment in a graveyard spiraled into the most unexpected turning point in the life of one of the nation's most influential women. 2 weeks after that fateful encounter in the cemetery, Eleanor had transformed her private study into a tactical headquarters. Stacks of investigative reports covered the vast, antique oak desk. Each page brought unsettling new details about Kendra Miles's life. Unmarried. No known relatives. Works 75 hours a week at 2 different jobs to keep her child fed, Eleanor muttered, flipping through the documents with a frown. Rents a tiny 1-bedroom flat on the roughest side of the city. Education stops at high school. Her loyal assistant, Marcus Edison, stood silent by her chair. He had witnessed Eleanor dismantle corporate rivals with less emotion than this fragile file seemed to provoke in her now. "What about the boy's mother?" Eleanor asked at last, her icy gaze fixed on a grainy photo of young Noah laughing on a dilapidated playground. "Now, this is where it gets complicated," Marcus said, flipping open a separate folder. "There's no birth certificate, no hospital records, not a single official document tying anyone to Noah's birth. It's as if his biological mother doesn't exist." Eleanor's fingertips drummed against the polished oak, a habit her boardroom had long ago learned to fear. 3 years earlier, when Damien had died, she had scrutinized every detail of his life, hunting for answers, searching desperately for something, anything, to make sense of the loss. Yet she'd never found proof of a serious partner, let alone a child. "Set up a meeting with this Kendra," Eleanor said, articulating the name like it tasted foreign on her tongue. "In my office. Tomorrow. 2 o'clock sharp." The following afternoon, Kendra Miles arrived at the towering Trump Global Enterprises building, dressed in her best and only suit, one she had carefully selected from a second-hand store. The 60-story skyscraper loomed over her, its mirrored glass walls throwing back a warped, distorted reflection of the woman standing before it. At the very top floor, Eleanor welcomed her into a sleek, commanding office where floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the sprawling city below. It was a calculated power play, and both women recognized it immediately. "Sit," Eleanor ordered, gesturing toward a chair deliberately positioned lower than her own. "We need to discuss Noah." Kendra remained standing. "I prefer to stand. Thank you." "As you wish." Eleanor opened a manila folder on the vast desk between them. "I've done my research on you, Miss Miles. 2 exhausting jobs, 0 savings, raising a child in circumstances utterly beneath him." "Noah is loved and well cared for," Kendra replied, her tone composed yet unwavering. Eleanor smiled a thin, practiced smile that never touched her icy blue eyes. "I'm sure you do your best. But a Whitaker child deserves more than your best. He deserves the absolute best that money can offer." "And what exactly are you proposing?" $250,000, Eleanor said, sliding a check across the desk with mechanical ease. "A starting figure. In exchange, Noah comes to live with me. He'll receive the education he deserves, the future Damien would have wanted for him. You may, of course, visit on weekends." Kendra regarded the check as though it were a venomous creature. "Are you trying to purchase my son?" "He's not your son," Eleanor snapped, the veneer of civility slipping. "He's my grandson. My bloodline. And frankly, a waitress barely scraping by can't offer him the life a Whitaker can." "Family," Kendra said, releasing a humorless laugh. "May I call you Eleanor? You want to talk about family?" "Noah has called me Mom every day for 3 years. I'm the one who wakes when he cries out from nightmares. I'm the one teaching him to read, counting coins with him at our kitchen table, tucking him in at night. That's family." Eleanor rose from her chair, her stature looming over Kendra's defiance. "Lovely sentiments. But reality is brutal. You work yourself to exhaustion just to cover rent that devours half your paycheck. Noah deserves elite schools, first-class travel, connections, and opportunities you will never provide. And he deserves unconditional love," Kendra said, her voice as steady as steel. Something you clearly failed to give your own son. The silence that settled between them was as sharp as broken glass. Eleanor felt the weight of the words like a slap. "How dare you?" "Damien told me about you," Kendra continued, her voice low but deliberate. "About the missed milestones, the empty seats at football games, the birthdays where assistants delivered gifts you didn't bother to wrap yourself. You want Noah not out of love, but because you're chasing absolution for mistakes you can't fix." Eleanor's fists curled at her sides. "You don't know me." "No," Kendra said. "But I knew your son. And I know exactly why he never told you about Noah." With deliberate calm, Kendra took the check and tore it in two, the pieces fluttering to the floor like wilted leaves. "Noah isn't for sale." "Then we'll do this the hard way," Eleanor warned, her voice dropping into something cold and dangerous. "I have resources beyond your comprehension. Lawyers, investigators, friends in high places. I can prove that a single mother with no college degree, living hand-to-mouth, is unfit to raise a child." For the first time, Kendra smiled. And there was something in that smile that gave Eleanor pause. "Eleanor," Kendra said quietly, "you're assuming I'm just some struggling waitress you can intimidate. But there are truths about me, about Noah, about Damien, things your investigators haven't uncovered yet." She stepped toward the door, pausing only to glance back over her shoulder. "And when you finally do, well, let's just say your people aren't as thorough as you think." "And Eleanor," Kendra added, her hand already on the door, "the next time you want to discuss Noah, it'll happen on my terms, not yours." After Kendra left, Eleanor remained standing alone in her glass-walled office, the shredded pieces of the torn check still scattered across the pristine floor. For the first time in decades, someone had walked away from a negotiation with her holding all the power. What Eleanor couldn't yet understand was how a simple cafe waitress carried herself with such unwavering confidence. It was as if Kendra possessed a secret knowledge, an unseen advantage that made all of Eleanor's resources, threats, and influence completely meaningless. Worse still, for the first time in her ruthless, controlled life, Eleanor Whitaker felt something foreign creeping beneath her skin. It wasn't fear exactly, but it was close. The unsettling sensation of being watched, studied, and assessed by someone who had seen straight through every defense she'd so carefully constructed, and wasn't remotely impressed by what she found beneath. 3 days after the tense confrontation in her office, Eleanor received a phone call that momentarily stole the breath from her lungs. Her lead attorney, Robert Lennox from the prestigious firm Lennox & Bell, sounded uncharacteristically uneasy, a rare occurrence in their 20-year relationship. "Eleanor, there's something you need to know about the custody case," he began, his voice tight with strain. "I got a call this morning from Miss Miles's legal team." Eleanor chuckled, tapping her manicured nails on the desk. "With what money? Some fresh out-of-school public defender?" "Actually," Robert hesitated, "she's being represented by Turner, Doyle and Haynes, pro bono." Eleanor nearly dropped her coffee. Turner, Doyle and Haynes wasn't just any law firm. It was one of the top 3 civil rights firms in the country, known for their ironclad cases and undefeated courtroom records. "That's impossible. Why would they care about some waitress?" "I don't know. But there's more." Robert exhaled. They've already filed a preliminary injunction claiming that any attempt to forcibly remove the child would constitute legal abduction rooted in socio-economic bias. Eleanor slammed down the phone hard enough to fracture the receiver. Kendra Miles had just played her opening hand, and it was far more formidable than Eleanor had ever anticipated. Meanwhile, inside Kendra's modest apartment across the city, a very different meeting was unfolding. The cramped living room was filled with individuals Eleanor Whitaker could never have imagined sitting together under one roof. Dr. Jonathan Park, a law professor at Eastbridge University. Helen Vargas, a renowned investigative journalist known for her exposés on corporate corruption. And at the heart of it all, an elegant woman in her early 60s whom Kendra greeted with evident warmth and respect. "Aunt Ruth, thank you for coming," Kendra said, embracing the woman. "I know the flight from Seattle wasn't easy." Ruth Miles smiled, her sharp, intelligent gaze carrying the same fire Kendra had displayed in Eleanor's office. "Child, the moment you told me it was time, I cleared my entire schedule. We've been waiting for this day for 3 long years." Little Noah played contentedly on the worn carpet, blissfully unaware of the weight of the conversation swirling around him. Dr. Park opened a thick binder filled with documents and photos. "Kendra, are you certain about this? Once we begin, there's no going back. Eleanor Trump has tremendous resources. She won't hesitate to unleash them all." "I'm ready, Dr. Park," Kendra answered with calm certainty. "I've been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Every night class, every law book, every relationship I've cultivated. It's all been for this day, to protect Noah. To honor Damien's memory." Helen Vargas looked up from her laptop. "What you've gathered is impressive, Kendra. 3 years' worth of meticulous documentation on Trump Global's shady business dealings, from illegal political contributions to systematic labor law violations." Ruth moved to the window, staring out at the modest city skyline beyond. "Eleanor thinks money makes her invincible. She has no idea my niece has spent the last 3 years studying her every move. Every corrupt transaction. Every off-the-books deal. Every hidden asset. She thinks her empire is untouchable, but we've been quietly mapping its weaknesses for years. Knowledge is the one weapon no one can buy or steal from you." Just then, Kendra's phone rang. The screen flashed a familiar name, Eleanor Trump. She was calling, and no doubt, she was furious. "What kind of game are you playing?" Eleanor practically shouted through the phone. "Turner, Doyle and Haynes. How does a waitress land attorneys of that caliber?" Kendra calmly switched her phone to speaker mode, allowing everyone in the room to listen. "Eleanor, I warned you there are things about me you haven't uncovered yet. I don't care what schemes you're pulling. Noah is my grandson, and I have limitless resources at my disposal to get what I want." "Limitless resources?" Kendra smiled, glancing at her gathered allies. "Eleanor, you seem to believe that money is the only form of power. But what if I told you there's something far more powerful?" "And what would that be?" "The truth." Eleanor laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. "Truth doesn't pay for high-powered lawyers." "You're right," Kendra agreed without hesitation. "But the truth about your corrupt business empire, the fraudulent contracts, the bribery, the backroom deals that built Trump Global, that truth is worth far more than money to the right people. And I've compiled 3 years' worth of evidence documenting every unethical move Trump Global has made," Helen added. "Contracts routed through shell corporations, shady payments to officials, covered up environmental violations. It's enough to dismantle any reputation." Kendra scooped Noah into her arms, the boy blissfully unaware of the fierce battle being waged around him. "What Eleanor doesn't understand is that this isn't just about Noah anymore. I'm fighting against an entire system that believes wealth can buy everything, even the right to break families apart." Ruth stepped forward, resting a reassuring hand on Kendra's shoulder. "Your mother would be proud of you. She always said education was the one inheritance no one could ever take from you." "Aunt Ruth raised me after my parents passed," Kendra explained to the others. "She taught me it's not where you come from that matters, it's where you're headed. And sometimes, to protect what you love, you have to be willing to go to war." The phone rang again. This time it was Eleanor's attorney. "Miss Miles, my client would like to discuss a settlement." $500,000 and supervised visitation. Kendra glanced at her allies, who shook their heads in silent agreement. Mr. Lennox, please inform your client that Noah is not for sale at any price. And tell her she has 48 hours to withdraw any and all legal threats against my family. Or else, come Monday morning, the Herald will run a full investigative report exposing Trump Global's corrupt business practices. I'm sure the IRS will also take a keen interest in some of the documentation we've acquired. After she hung up, Helen smiled. Kendra, are you prepared for this? Once we go public, Eleanor will come at you with everything she has. Kendra looked down at Noah, now sleeping peacefully in her arms. Helen, I've lived the past 3 years knowing this moment would come. Eleanor thinks her wealth makes her untouchable, but she's never faced someone who spent years preparing for this exact fight. Dr. Park stood, gathering his papers. We'll file the legal petition tomorrow. The law is on our side. Ruth kissed Kendra's forehead gently. Remember, child, they may have the money, but we hold the truth. That night, after Noah had drifted off to sleep, Kendra opened an old trunk tucked away in her room. Inside were diplomas from Knight Law School, certificates from advanced management programs, and glowing letters of recommendation from respected professors. And at the very bottom, a photograph. Kendra, alongside Damien and a fair-skinned young woman. A photograph Eleanor Trump had never seen. A photograph that held answers not only about Noah's true parentage but also about why Kendra had spent the past 3 years preparing so meticulously for this war. Eleanor Trump was about to learn one of life's harshest lessons, that underestimating someone can be the most devastating and expensive mistake a person can make. And sometimes, the sweetest form of revenge doesn't come through brute strength, but through careful planning, relentless patience, and the precise moment to reveal truths people would do anything to keep buried. What Eleanor didn't realize was that the battle for Noah's custody had only been the opening move in a far larger game. A game Kendra Miles had been strategizing since the day Damien Trump died. And one poised to unravel secrets that wouldn't just tarnish Eleanor's reputation but could obliterate the entire empire she had so carefully crafted through decades of deception. On Monday morning, Eleanor awoke to several missed calls on her phone. Her longtime assistant, Marcus, stood outside her bedroom door clutching a tablet, wearing an expression Eleanor had never seen on his face before, genuine fear. Eleanor, you need to see this, he said, handing her the device with trembling hands. The front page of the Herald flashed across the screen in bold black letters. Empire built on corruption. Leaked documents expose decades of criminal activity at Trump Global. Eleanor's knees gave way beneath her. Beneath the headline sprawled pages of scanned documents, fraudulent contracts, illegal political contributions, and elaborate schemes of money laundering. Each page was a death sentence for her reputation. How did they get this? She whispered, her finger scrolling through the damning evidence. There were photographs of secret meetings she was certain had been undocumented and audio recordings of conversations she believed were held in absolute privacy. Her phone rang. It was Robert Lennox, her lead attorney. Eleanor, this is catastrophic, he said bluntly. The IRS has already issued warrants. The FBI is en route to your home. And there's more, the Securities and Exchange Commission has suspended all Trump Global stock from trading effective immediately. Eleanor hung up and dialed Kendra's number with shaking hands, rage and disbelief churning inside her. You, she shouted when Kendra answered. You did this. How dare you try to destroy my life? Good morning, Eleanor, Kendra replied, her voice serene, almost casual. I take it you've seen the headlines. I'll destroy you. I'll throw everything I have at you. What resources? Kendra interrupted softly. Because from what I'm seeing on the news, your bank accounts were frozen about 15 minutes ago. Panic seized Eleanor as she raced to her computer, typing frantically into banking websites. Access denied. Access denied. Access denied. Impossible, she muttered. There's something my investigators didn't bother mentioning earlier, Kendra continued. Helen Vargas doesn't work alone. She has an entire team specializing in financial crimes. Every fraudulent document you've signed for the past 20 years has been tracked and archived. Eleanor's television flickered to life in the background, showing live coverage outside the Trump Global headquarters. Reporters swarmed as employees exited the building carrying boxes of personal belongings, their careers annihilated in a single morning. The name she had spent decades building was being demolished on national television. Why? Eleanor asked, her voice cracking. Why do this to me? Because you never once bothered to ask about Noah's mother, Kendra said simply. If you had, you'd have learned her name was Rachel Trump. Eleanor's blood ran cold. Impossible. Rachel was the daughter of Charles Trump, your cousin. The same cousin you betrayed many years ago to steal his share of the family company. Memories surged like a flood. Charles, young and confident, signing paperwork Eleanor had doctored. The family feud she had won through lies, deceit, and manipulation. His exile from the business and from their lives. Rachel grew up in poverty because of your betrayal, Kendra continued. She met Damien at university. They fell in love. But she was terrified to tell him who she really was, knowing you'd drive her away from his life, just like you did to her father. Vaguely, Eleanor recalled Charles once mentioning a daughter, though she had paid it no mind at the time. When Rachel died giving birth to Noah, Damien came to me in desperation. I was her best friend. He knew Rachel wanted me to protect Noah. But Damien also uncovered the truth about what you did to her family. He knew. He knew. Eleanor whispered, her face pale with realization. He spent the last months of his life investigating you, Eleanor, gathering evidence, preparing for this. When Damien died in that accident, he left everything to me, Kendra said. Files, recordings, undeniable proof. He asked me to wait, for the right moment. Eleanor turned toward the window just as she saw FBI vans pulling up outside her estate. The accident. Eleanor began, her voice shaking. It wasn't an accident, Kendra said, her tone steady and calm. Damien uncovered a money laundering operation involving dangerous individuals. People you paid to make problems disappear. Those people killed your son, Eleanor. The truth hit Eleanor like a physical blow. Damien had died because he had discovered her crimes. Through her greed and her corruption, she had been responsible for her own son's death. Noah is the last legitimate heir of the Trump family, Kendra continued. Rachel was the rightful successor to the fortune you stole. And now, with your accounts frozen and your company seized, Noah finally has what was always meant to be his. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hallway. Voices shouted with authority, FBI. You've been planning this for 3 years, Eleanor whispered, her voice hollow now, finally grasping the scale of the storm that had come for her. Damien taught me patience is the foundation of real justice, Kendra replied. Every file I gathered, every class I completed, every connection I forged, it was all for this. The door burst open. Federal agents stormed in, arrest warrants in hand. Eleanor Trump, you are under arrest for tax evasion, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit fraud. As the cold steel of the handcuffs locked around her wrists, Eleanor heard Kendra's voice one final time. Noah will grow up knowing the truth about his family. He'll know that justice, even when slow, always arrives. Television cameras captured Eleanor being led away in disgrace. Her downfall was broadcast live to millions. The empire she had built on deception collapsed within hours. That same afternoon, Kendra sat peacefully in the park, watching Noah play on the swings. Her phone rang. It was Ruth. "Child, I saw the news. How are you feeling?" "Like Damien can finally rest in peace," Kendra answered softly, her gaze fixed on Noah laughing as he slid down the playground slide. "And Noah will grow up knowing that his family fought for justice, not revenge." What Eleanor Trump had learned far too late was that Kendra had never been just a determined waitress. She was the protector of a stolen legacy. A woman who had transformed 3 years of quiet preparation into the most flawlessly executed justice the courts had ever witnessed. 2 years later, the Millstone Women's Correctional Facility was a far cry from the glittering penthouse Eleanor had once commanded. Now clad in a standard-issue orange jumpsuit, she spent her days working laundry for $2.50 an hour, a bitter irony lost on no one. "Mrs. Trump, you've got a visitor," a guard announced. Eleanor expected to see a lawyer, perhaps a reporter. Instead, Kendra Miles awaited her in the visiting room, poised and elegant in a tailored navy suit that cost more than Eleanor would earn in half a year. "I'm here with news," Kendra said confidently. "Noah's just been accepted to Harper's Academy, the same school Damien attended. Full scholarship." Eleanor felt a brief pang of something like pride. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're still his grandmother," Kendra replied simply. "And because Noah asked me if bad people can ever change." She paused. "I told him, that depends on whether they truly want to." Kendra slid a folder across the table. Inside were photographs of Noah, smiling in his crisp school uniform. He's learning the violin, just like his father. His teacher says he's a natural. "How are you affording all of this?" Eleanor asked, though she already suspected the answer. Kendra smiled with quiet satisfaction. "The fortune you stole from Rachel's family. The courts returned it. Noah is now the rightful heir to the legitimate Trump estate." She tilted her head. "Ironic, isn't it?" Eleanor closed her eyes. "And you? What did you get out of this?" "I got the chance to give Noah something you never gave Damien. A family where love comes before wealth." Kendra stood up. "And the peace of knowing that Rachel and Damien can finally rest. Is he happy?" "He's loved," Kendra said with finality. "And that's all that's ever truly mattered." Meanwhile, Noah ran joyfully through the garden of their new home, a charming property overlooking a peaceful Connecticut lake. From the porch, Kendra watched him, a framed MBA degree hanging proudly on the wall behind her. "Mom, can I play my violin for you?" Noah called, running toward the house. "Of course, my love," Kendra replied, her heart warm with pride, knowing how much Damien would have cherished this moment. Ruth Miles visited often, sharing family stories Noah carried like treasured heirlooms. "And Aunt Ruth taught me," Kendra once explained to Noah, "that the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building something so beautiful that they regret never being part of it." Noah would grow up knowing his family fought not for revenge, but for dignity. Even in a world that often feels unjust, there is always a clever way to reclaim your own story. Eleanor Trump had attempted to buy herself a grandson, but what she came to learn far too late was that family cannot be purchased. True family is built through love, sacrifice, and being present. She lost everything because she mistook power for worth and wealth for dignity. Kendra Miles' greatest triumph wasn't in tearing down Eleanor's empire. It was in creating a future where Noah would never have to repeat the mistakes of the generations before him. A future where a child would grow up understanding that identity isn't defined by skin color or the size of a bank account, but by the strength of one's heart and integrity. Eleanor had tried to use her influence and fortune to rip Noah away, but she learned the hard way that genuine love cannot be bought at any price. Kendra proved, beyond doubt, that persistence, intelligence, And patience will always outlast arrogance and prejudice. Have you ever been underestimated because of where you come from or your circumstances? Share your story in the comments and let us know how you overcame it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more inspiring stories that remind us true family is built through love, not through betrayal or greed. Thanks for watching. Bye.